How are you guys doing? It is Sunday, October 18th, 2020 out here in this quarantine. I'm James Sims, and for today's installment of the Elite Chronicles, I'm gonna get into a little bit of a newfound fandom that I really got into with Atlanta United coming into Atlanta, I think in 2017 or 2018. I wasn't there for the first season of Atlanta United soccer, and I don't know if you're kind of aware of how the MLS works, but when they added a new team, they were able to the teams are kind of basically to pick whatever players they want from other teams in the MLS with the exception of a certain number of people. That's usually how expansion drafts work, or that's how expansion works when leagues add new teams. But when Atlanta was added, they kind of were able to pick a bunch of players from a bunch of different teams in the MLS, and they were able to kind of establish their own base, kind of centering around Josef Martinez, one of the best strikers in the world, and Miguel Almiron at the time, and they kind of started to form a really dominant team. In their first year, I wasn't able to attend a game. But of course, Atlanta United really went off that year. Josef Martinez finished leading the entire MLS in goals scored. And the Atlanta United kind of showed that they were a team that was here to stay. And the very next year, in 2018, I was able to go to a game for my brother's birthday. And I will tell you this. The experience at an Atlanta United game is kind of different, and it kind of catches you off balance because you don't necessarily think of soccer as an American sport, but when you kind of look at what the fandom of global soccer looks like and how there's less scoring, and that kind of puts more emphasis on the scoring goal and the scoring plays themselves. And I'm not gonna lie, going to experience an Atlanta United game is probably one of the better, I would say is the best sports experience in Atlanta, including playoff football, baseball, and basketball, just because of the rhythm and how kind of soccer kind of just takes over. It's really fun. So when my brother went for his birthday, of course, we brought the family, he brought his friend, and then we were sitting in the fan section where you can kind of just where you buy a ticket for the entire section, and depending on how early you get there, you can just sit down in any seat. So my family, we were able to kind of move down to right behind the goals where they would allow us to sit in between, and we were able to sit lower to the field, which we thought was better because people wave giant flags throughout the game. So if you're sitting higher up in the fan section, you're probably not going to see everything that you wanted, but it's still an amazing game. People are waving their flags the entire game, except for, of course, when the ball's on that half of the field, because the way Atlanta does it, they have their fan section behind one of the goals. It's usually behind the drum they beat right at the beginning of the game. It's really cool. They have the players walk in. They have all the fans kind of watch them walk in. It's a very intimate experience for soccer fans, and it's kind of odd because you don't really see that with MLS soccer compared to the rest of the leagues, because of course there are other sports that take priority to soccer in America, and it's kind of weird to see Atlanta United do that. But of course, the game I went to, I think a player got pulled. So Atlanta United was playing with one less player, but it was still an amazing game every time they scored. Of course, with being the fan section, people just waving flags. They were shooting it was in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, arguably the nicest stadium in the country, because I saw it right after it was built. But everything really kind of came together and made it an amazing experience. The first game, I think the first game I went to, Atlanta United lost, but it was still really cool. And I would go to another game that year, and Atlanta United won. Atlanta United was able to win the second game, and then that year, Atlanta United won the entire MLS championship, finishing with the second best record overall. But of course, when they made it all the way to the very end, they were able to get this win, and Josef Martinez finished as the top goal scorer in the MLS for the first time in his career, the only time he's done it in his career so far. Atlanta United was able to lead the entire MLS in average attendance because they were filling out the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, of course, for the big games. And then, of course, that second year they were able to win. They won my sophomore year. They won in 2018 because the way the MLS plays, they start their season in the spring and ended in the winter, which is reverse of how the European leagues do it. But in 2018, Atlanta United was able to win. Surprisingly, they were able to break a very long Atlanta curse. I don't know if they really broke it because no other team from Atlanta has won. The Braves have an opportunity, but with this, No, but that's how they finished. They finished really really well, and then in 2019, Atlanta United finished in the semifinal round, and they were eventually knocked out. They played incredibly well, and then after losing Miguel Almiron, because Miguel Almiron signed in the Premier League, and then their other center attacking mid, Pity Martinez, that they got to replace him. He's now playing. I think he's playing for a Saudi team right now, but I'm not completely sure. Right now, Atlanta United is currently sitting at 9th or 11th in the Eastern Conference of the MLS. They're right now they're sitting with a five wins, four draws, and 9 losses through 18 games. That's 19 points. 19 points out of first place behind Toronto FC. Not doing necessarily well, but considering how dominant Atlanta United was for their first 3 seasons, I mean, they can have one season. Like, I'm not mad. They already fired their manager Frank de Boer, who's from the Netherlands before this game even started, and now Atlanta United's kind of dropping. I imagine they're going to be back up with the talent that they have, and like as often as I can, I'm going to try to go see an Atlanta United game, because those experiences are incredibly intimate, coupled with how awesome the stadium is. I mean, there's already like a Chick-fil-A. I'm planning on not going to like Sunday games, because of course the Chick-fil-A would be open. But Atlanta's new stadium is beautiful. It's really kind of open. You can see a good amount from that stadium, and of course, if you go to a soccer game, I'd recommend going to Players. I forget exactly what it's called, but you can kind of just seat yourself in the fan section. All the tickets are about the same. You just have to get there early so you can kind of secure a spot and kind of enjoy the game. Because there's a lot of flags that are being waved. And if you're not in that section, you can like sit down, and there's a lot of chants that go through. It's really easy to learn the chants. It makes the game really fun. And especially if you're standing up and jumping the whole time with the rest of the fans, it's a completely different game than if you're just sitting and watching. But that's me personally, because that's the kind of fan that I am. I kind of like being in it. And if you're really trying to be a fan that really kind of gets into it, like while in the stadium, I totally recommend going to. If not just an Atlanta United game, an MLS game, or just a soccer game in general, because I'd say the only game I've been to that's come close to that, I'd say, were the Atlanta Braves playoff game I went to not recently against the Dodgers a couple of years ago. And then there was the Bayern Munich game that I went to almost last year today. But of course, with that said, I want to thank you for listening to this 7.5 minute piece. It is Sunday, October 18th, 2020, I hear in this quarantine. I haven't been doing talking segments this week because I've just been taking this week pretty chill. And once baseball's finished, I'm going to get back on the daily grind with my daily episodes. But with that said, I want to thank you once again for listening to my piece, and peace out.